Just stop doing that. Hey, Connor. Can you read me a bedtime story?
Absolutely. Let's introduce Kimi Raikkonen, a man of great wonder. Many races a winner, many races a blunder. His performances were great, his legacy will be strong, though that doesn't mean that there weren't times when things went wrong. But before we get there, we'll talk his first stop, where the Iceman started his journey to get to the top. It was the year 2000 and the world did not end, but Peter Sauber was struggling to find a driver who could contend. Some searching he did, both near and far, until he found a boy named Kimi driving pre-Formula cars. A test was held for the fearless Finn to show off his skills and see if he could get in. His performance was impressive, beating out a seasoned vet, but the bad FIA said, "Sorry, Kimi, you're just not ready yet." So Peter stuck his neck out to get our boy on his team, and thus the Iceman was about to fulfill his dream. For a deal was struck to get Kimi to race, but Peter warned him he would be dropped if he wasn't on pace.
Wait a second. You're telling me that they would have gotten rid of him if he wasn't nice?
Yes.
Haven't there been plenty of drivers without experience that have come to Formula One recently?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, back then, Kimi hadn't been in any races in Formula 3 or Formula 2, so he didn't have super license points to allow him to get into Formula 1. He really was a huge liability.
Fuck the FIA.
We hate the FIA.
Not this FIA, that FIA. Fuck that FIA.
Now back to the story. At Kimi's first Grand Prix, a legend would be started that continued 20 great years until the day he departed. You see, with 30 minutes to lights out, the young driver was nowhere to be found. Not in the toilet, not in the camper, no, he was sleeping on the ground. Upon finding him there, the team awoke him from slumber. 3 more minutes, he pled, as the team gazed in wonder. For upon the end of his snooze, it was amazing to witness. The young man scored points and proved his racing fitness. At this year, it continued with much great success, and a man named Ron Dennis, he continued to impress.
Can I do the sound effects?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
At the end of this season,
Bring, bring.
his phone rang.
Do you want to drive for McLaren?
Ron's voice sang. So to the papaya he went, and boy was he fast. Though problems with the cars meant that he often came last. Without his 3 DNFs in 2003, he would have beaten Schumacher, and a champion he'd be. As the relationship dragged and wins were hard to find, Kimi kept us entertained with the contents of his behind. When he missed Pele in Brazil, Brundle grilled him a bit, but he clapped back at old Martin, saying,
Sorry.
I was having a shit.
Of course, there was Monaco where his car lit on fire, but his day was not over when he had to retire. He was seen shortly after watching his cars go through the bends, smiling shirtless on a yacht, pounding drinks with his friends.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if, that happened in any other sport? Imagine Antonio Brown quits in the middle of the game, and then he's just seen drinking a White Claw in, the luxury boxes with his boys. Formula One's amazing, man.
Dude, ESPN would lose their goddamn minds. For the 2007 season, he left the papaya for horses. And boy, did this turn out to be one of the sport's most interesting divorces. This year saw McLaren bring Lewis and Fernando to the table, but Ferrari's Massa and Kimi were an extremely strong stable. While internal turmoil at McLaren kept their excitement grounded, Ferrari and Kimi stuck around and hounded. They slowly reeled their rivals in and got into contention. And boy, were the final races something to mention. When the dust settled, Kimi rose as the world drivers' champion, and man, did he party. Nothing could make him sleep. Not even an Ambien.
Come on, man. Champion and Ambien don't rhyme.
Yeah, well, you know what? Jay-Z rhymed them in Empire State of Mind, so go fuck yourself.
Okay, but how did Kimi win over two-time defending champion Fernando Alonso and an immediately successful Lewis Hamilton?
Well, we went over McLaren's troubles in our previous fairy tale for former champions about Fernando Alonso. But on the Ferrari side, Kimi started out strong by winning race 1, but he quickly fell behind throughout the season, as you might have expected. But as the shitstorm unfolded at McLaren, Kimi made the most of his opportunity. In the last 10 races of the season, he came away with 5 wins, and he only missed the podium 1 time due to a mechanical failure.
That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, his persistence and consistency paid off, and only added to the embarrassment for McLaren in a season where they easily should have won both the drivers and constructors champion.
So then what happened?
Well, much like his time at McLaren, the success was sadly fleeting, though his last season did have a funny story about eating. In his last year with the Red Stable at a rain-delayed race, Kimi was spotted on camera with ice cream all over his face. The season ground down, and Kimi was looking around for a new opportunity where success could be found. But unlike last time, F1 was not on his mind. Kimi wanted to leave the stuffy F1 stuff behind. He messed around with rally, trying his hands on the dirt. He jumped into a stock car and gave NASCAR a flirt. He found he didn't like rally and the hazard it waged, and he was no good at NASCAR because he couldn't get the
slingshot engaged.
So back to the glamour he headed with a return to F1. He won a bunch of races for Lotus, which must have been fun. The first time he led, his race engineers could feel a wind brewing. After too much coaching, Kimi snapped, saying,
"Just leave me alone, I know what to do."
He won so much that his bonuses became a disaster, eventually causing Lotus Racing to be sent out to pasture.
Kimi killed Lotus?
Yeah, so he had this crazy contract. His base salary was pretty reasonable, but his bonuses were massive. He was paid $50,000 for every single point that he scored, and he ended up scoring so much that the team could no longer afford to pay him. The bonuses would have ended up costing Lotus $19.5 million over the 2 years that he was with the team. Kimi could have sued for the compensation he was owed, but knowing that he would ruin the team and cost his colleagues their jobs, he decided to forfeit over $6 million. But his generosity, unfortunately, wasn't enough to save Lotus, as the damage had already been done. The team soon fell into severe financial disrepair and ended up selling to the then Renault Racing, now Alpine.
Kimi's a good guy.
Good guy, Kimi. Really good guy. So anyway, he went back to Ferrari to relive his former glory, but unlike his win at the 2005 Canadian Grand Prix, his results were kind of...
Sorry.
He got his final win at Coda, breaking his record-long winless streak, but other than that, the results were somewhat bleak. Vettel was Ferrari's man, and Kimi settled on playing second fiddle. And after 5 seasons, he found himself off air, similar to 2000's hit sitcom, Malcolm in the Middle.
Excuse me. Malcolm in the Middle was on air for 7 seasons.
Okay. Anyway, Alpha gave him 3 farewell seasons, where he mentored Italian Jesus. His interviews remained short, and his pictures devoid of cheeses.
Jesus.
Yeah, like cheese.
Oh.
He often was left thirsty, which happens when your team stinks. But he remained stoic always, regardless of what anyone thinks. Through all of the bullshit, Kimi stayed true to who he was. No matter what Brundle said, he never gave in to media buzz. He'll always have his piercing blue eyes and a smoking hot wife, and now he's off to enjoy the fruits of labor for the rest of his life. So goodbye, Kimi Raikkonen, and your shitty tribal tattoo. But we're glad we got to watch you do the things that you do.
Can you tuck me in? Thanks.